You know, if you and I were to have a discussion today, and some of these words came up like infectious diseases, you know, unfortunate death, hospitals crowded without the proper equipment or the proper medical attention. If we were to talk about high unemployment rate or the state of the economy and the disaster that it's in, I would have to make the assumption that you and I are talking about the coronavirus. That's got our attention. The uncertainty that's surrounding our country and this world is being based on every discussion about the coronavirus. But if I ask you to just pause just for a second and think about those words that I just said: death, infectious disease, unemployment, bad economy, and just go ahead and think about, there's actually places outside of America this is going on. But honestly, it's been going on each and every day for the last 100 years. And how can I present this to you in a way that'll make sense? Well, back in the early 2000s, from 2001 to 2007, my wife and I and our children had a chance to spend some time in Brazil. And you know, for a Brazilian, each and every day seems to bring adversity. It's almost as if death comes knocking on a Brazilian's door every day in the form of infectious diseases, leprosy. Can you imagine a mosquito bite in Brazil taking someone's life? Imagine taking a drink from tap water in Brazil and dying within a couple of days. Just those two examples alone of getting bit by a mosquito or drinking tap water in America, you'll never hear of an American dying from either one of those two things. But that's daily life in Brazil, and it's never changed, and it may never change for the next 10, 15, 20 years in Brazil. You know, but the biggest phrase or the biggest theme that keeps on coming back to me during this time, what I learned there, is the phrase resiliency through adversity. And I can only imagine that phrase, that term, is seen each and every day throughout Central and South America. I could probably say that term, resiliency through adversity, is being used right now in the plains of Africa, the deserts of the Middle East, the foothills and the mountains of Asia, and even for a black man or a black woman walking the streets of America in the 1950s. You know, one of my favorite stories in the Bible is when Jesus was confronted by the leper. Now you can imagine it was probably going through Jesus' mind, because even back then there was such thing as social distancing. Jesus was probably told by the general public that he was to social distance himself from the leper. Yet what did Jesus do? He made a decision. He made a decision he thought was more necessary to shorten the distance between him and the man with leprosy than actually further that distance. Jesus leaned into the adversity. He stepped into whatever fear that the general public was trying to create about lepers. What Jesus did next was amazing. Even during that time of social distancing, Jesus actually physically laid his hands on the man, a man that was sick and diseased and infectious and dying. And Jesus laid hands on him, and that man was healed. There's nothing more powerful, there's not a more powerful story in the Bible that reflects what's happening now. It's just, I guess it's in my heart to be more like Jesus, to step into this adversity, this fear, as opposed to stepping away, and to continue to love one another and encourage one another, and sometimes even laying hands on one another, whether through prayer, you know, or a hug. I know it sounds crazy, but Jesus overcame his fear by actually doing just that, laying hands on somebody. So that's going to be my biggest encouragement for the people we serve in our office, for my friends and my family members, for those out there that may get a chance to see this video and see how amazing and powerful it is just by actually stepping into human touch, not stepping away from it.
I am surrounded by the arms of a Father. I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. We've been liberated
You know, it's obvious, and there's no debating, we are in adverse times. The world is being gripped by this COVID coronavirus issue. And the constant word I'm hearing over and over again is the word fear. But I'm hearing it from two sides of the pond, so to speak. I'm hearing on the side of the news agencies and social media and even some of the doctors that lives are at stake, millions of lives are at stake, and we're in jeopardy. And on the other side, I'm hearing from some of our politicians and even some of our pastors to fear not. And honestly, I'm confused, and I imagine it can be confusing to the public. What is this? Are we to fear this, or are we to not fear this? You know, I've always been taught, and I've lived my life to not walk in fear, but to face my fears and to step into adversity. And the Bible talks about to live by faith and not by sight. And I want to use that encouragement from the Bible to encourage you to walk by faith and not in fear. Whether it's a Brazilian or an African or a Middle Eastern or an Asian or a black man walking the streets during the Civil Rights Movement in the 1950s. If we're to not fear, my only assumption is we got to take the action to fear not. Which really encouraging to me, and I hope to you too, that in the Bible alone, the word fear not, that one expression is referred to over 365 times. So what is this fear that's been gripping us? I've given a lot of thought over the last month, and I have to make the assumption that at the end it's all about, most likely probably death, the fear of death. It wasn't too long ago, I think it was 2017 or 2018, that the mainstream media was reporting that over 80,000 Americans lost their lives that year from the flu. And my question is, even in this current state of affairs that we're in, with everything shutting down, why wasn't schools and businesses and churches and the economy shut down 2 or 3 years ago, when far, far more deaths were taken that year from the flu than most likely the coronavirus will take this year? You know, I've even read that researchers and doctors have stated that over 99% of the people who've gotten the COVID-19 virus have recovered from it, and even then essentially develop a lifetime immunity from it. So fear isn't something death isn't something we should be fearing. There's an underlying issue here that I don't think is being addressed. We believe there is a solution to this, and that's just to lean in and fear not. And what I mean by that is, in essence, God didn't make the virus with more capabilities and intelligence than He made the own human body. In fact, He made us more powerful than the virus. He made us overcomers of the virus. And what our goal is to just encourage people and give people an idea of what that looks like. A celebration of life, a celebration of victory, and a celebration of health. And so our goal is to invite you into our office and give you an idea what that looks like. And I really hope you enjoy it and hope you receive it from our hearts.
I'm no longer